Welcome back, everyone, to Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm, the game which Chris Hardwick describes as...
This is the future of sports!
And we agree. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and I'm sitting here with Kyle Ferguson. Kyle, welcome back, dude.
It's great to be back. How are you doing this week? How was your Heroes? How was Overwatch? Should we even touch that, or should we just make this an Overwatch-free show?
Well, if you're going to ask me how was my Heroes this week, I'm going to say it was very Overwatch.
So you played a lot of Tracer.
I did play a lot of Tracer, not in Heroes.
In another game. I wonder what that's been like for people, because here's a hero that the majority of people didn't even get to touch in the actual game she's from, but have experience playing her. And now to have that back and forth, I wonder if Tracer's popularity has gone up. I'm certainly seeing her everywhere in Heroes this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, too, because it's got to be a unique experience, right? Experiencing how to play a specific character or hero or whatever the hell you want to call it in a game before actually playing it in the game that it's from. Like, I don't think that will ever really happen again. Or it'll certainly be as rare as it has been. But I think you'll be fine. I think if you played Tracer in one and are going into the other, that you would be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, a good 1-to-1.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been enjoying it. It's one of those weeks, right? One of those weeks where we are in a very unique position, but everyone in our position is having a very similar experience, which is, hey, we do a show about a specific game, and that studio has released a new game this week that is all the rage, but we're still here to talk about this other game that's still going strong, that's still been going on for a while now, Kyle.
Yeah, 2 years.
Indeed. And there's some cool stuff coming. I mean, we got a Medivh preview, like a proper one to talk about this week. His talents have been released in full. We're only, 3 weeks away from Season 1?
Yeah. Supposedly on Tuesday the 14th, but they left themselves some wiggle room. The game is really filled out, too, like the past week, before Overwatch came out. Team League was a bump in place, which was awesome to see. Hero League maybe have upped in toxicity a bit as people are trying to get to that rank 10. But still, the game has been extremely filled out. And now everyone's kind of gone everywhere else. It's a very different kind of game, first-person shooters to MOBAs. I mean, I can inform you that my particular shows aren't going anywhere because, the frustration of just dying. And I know that's probably what it feels like if you're new at MOBAs. You walk out of the gate and you just died for no reason. And what is this? Who is that? Why is this character spinning around me, saying cheers love and hitting me in the face? I don't understand these things. But snipers, man.
Snipers are nuts. Snipers are nuts. And that's, oh man, has that been happening today?
And at least in Heroes of the Storm, I can go, at least it was my fault. I didn't watch the mini-map.
That's right. You're absolutely right. As opposed to in Overwatch where you go, well, it's my fault. I didn't look in all directions all at the same time constantly.
Darn it, I stepped out of the door.
And we're cut down in your prime of life. Have you bought yourself the Widowmaker skin, which went live this week?
Oh, for Nova?
Yeah.
No, that thing's ugly.
I like it. I like Widowmaker, but I don't really play a whole lot of Nova, so I haven't picked it up yet. I can wait for a sale on that one.
Well, and from the top, it looks great, right? Nova's smug, almost kind of cheeky, chubby baby face applied to the sleek outfit of Widowmaker is haunting.
It's a limitation of the engine, I would say.
Oh, and it's still the same character, right? They didn't redo the face just for her.
Right. Because you need to keep the silhouette pretty much the same. So,
but that'd be nice to see, get a little custom voiceover in there, fix up her face, make her look like Widowmaker. Do the same with maybe Sergeant Hammer's orc skin, some Dabus and whatnot in there, instead of just the voice modulator.
Yeah. Well, just to remind our patrons, our call-in episode is tomorrow, our patron hangout. It'll be at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. for you West Coasters, and for wherever else you're living, I don't know. Type it into Google and do a translation for your time zone. But looking forward to talking to a lot of you there. If you've never called into one of our patron episodes before, head on over to patreon.com/ITN and find the details there. It should be a couple posts back. We do it over Skype. Looking forward to talking to you guys tomorrow. Well, Kyle, shall we get into this week's news?
Let's do it.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Can Stitches play now?
Yeah, I love it when... Oh, cigar fell in the... Oh, wait!
Yeah. So we talked about the Medivh preview a little bit, and you actually have talked about Medivh quite a bit already with our good friend Jeff Kanata on episode 105, where you two both talked about the Heroes of the Storm Summit that Jeff actually attended. So if you want to hear this show go into a deeper dive into just his abilities, that's the episode to go and listen to. We're going to be talking today a little bit more about the more interesting talents that were revealed this week. Because, well, they were revealed. All of them. We're not going to talk about all of them, because that would be insane. It'd be like sitting here reading from a slightly more interesting phone book. Actually, that'd be kind of cool, man. You go to a payphone, which for all you youngins out there were these hardline phones and booths, and you pick up the payphone, it's actually a wizard book.
You've already bought the domain, haven't you?
What?
Yellow Page Cast. New show coming from me.
No, that's not where I was going with this. I was going, wouldn't it be cool if you picked up a phone book and inside it turned out to be a spell tome?
Oh, well, that's a great little idea for a movie, right? Kind of Harry Potter-esque.
I would argue that it's a great idea for a movie in the 90s, because that's
Phononomicon.
about all it took to pitch a movie
inspire
in the
an
90s.
adventure movie.
What if Mel Gibson could hear what women were thinking?
Yeah, and then with a blow dryer outside.
Something
Was that sexist? Was that a problem? I don't know back then. I guess it wasn't back then. Maybe today.
I think it's just funnier now, knowing Mel Gibson to be the type of person that he is.
In the Page Master, didn't the kid just fall asleep and then he was in a dreamland? Or did he have to do something with the pages to get there?
There was something about a library run by Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, and like the coolest looking library card ever. I had that game on Genesis. Man, you're getting me off topic. Back to Medivh, because we know his talents now. So you went through and you picked out some of the more interesting ones, and we'll be going in order of his abilities. So starting with Arcane Rift, his Q ability, which is just a skill shot, goes through guys, refunds mana, and cuts its cooldown if it hits a hero.
Which is important to know because 60 mana for 182 damage, that's bad.
Yep.
I mean, even like Stormbolt from Muradin has some pretty comparable damage for the mana you get, and you get a stun on it. And what's really interesting about the talents for this ability is that there's a level 7 quest. And it's not that different from things like Kael'thas has.
Right. And typically, quest talents are level 1. You choose it early so that you can get started working on said quest. So I thought to myself, oh, well, it's at level 7. Clearly, they must have cut the amount of whatever things you need to do with this talent or to achieve your quest. And it certainly does not seem that way upon looking at it. It's called Master's Touch, and the quest is to hit 35 enemy heroes to permanently increase the cooldown reduction by 1 second and boost the damage dealt by 100. Unfinished progress is lost on death.
And no nothing along the way. You got to hit 35 heroes with it, and then you get the bonuses. There's nothing scaling along in the background.
This seems extremely punishing and hard to pull off.
Well, maybe it's easy not to die when you can turn into an invincible bird and put a protection shield on yourself. Maybe that's why this is so late in the game, so he doesn't get it too early and up his damage by 100. Either way, the poke is really long range and will be frustrating on channeling maps.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see if this becomes the go-to talent. Do you think it will?
I have no idea, man. This guy is going to be so different. He's a specialist, and they've redefined specialist. They took away the little building picture, and now we have a nice little star. So he's going to be his own thing, which is a little scary for this period in the game, if we want to get into that topic. We have a lot of heroes doing their own thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm assuming you don't want to get into that topic.
It's a long one, but it's easy right now to get a comp loss in this game. And Medivh isn't going to be a solid ETC Vala Johanna kind of type guy. He, in some regards, is going to open up really interesting plays in the pro scene. I'm really excited to see this in the pro scene. I'm excited to see supportless comps with Medivh. Maybe. But at the same time, you're quick matching. And now there's yet another opportunity at Chromie, Abathur, and Medivh, and kind of lose quickly.
Yeah, I would very much like to see more addendums to the rules that they put in place for quick match, so that you don't end up with too much of a body light composition. Because looking at Medivh, it's looking like it's going to be another body light hero.
It seems that way.
Yeah, because you've got this bird form that's really helpful actually, and you are invulnerable while you're a raven, and it's interesting. I'm really excited for Medivh. I don't want that to be lost. Actually, he seems exceptionally unique, and obviously there's a bit of like my Warcraft 3 bias coming in as well. Medivh was
Sure.
one of the first dudes you hear from in Warcraft 3. So I'm really looking forward to him. But I'm picking up what you're laying down as far as your concerns about putting Medivh into the game with quick match the way it is, and the history of releases in recent weeks.
And who knows, we may sit on the precipice of Solid Town, and they're going to go, cool, we filled out the wacky stuff. Glad you guys enjoyed Cho'Gall, Artanis. Down the line, all these heroes that have come out and not been true roles, bruisers, specialists. Li Ming was really solid, sure. So maybe this just helps fill that out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Force of Will a little bit, and this is his, what everyone's been calling, mini Divine Shield.
Scary thought.
Yes, yeah, it seems like it could be really strong. Just to reiterate, it's on a 5-second cooldown, and it protects you protect an ally, and you shield them from all damage for 1.5 seconds. This is on a 5-second cooldown. The thing to note, though, is that they can still be stunned. They're still vulnerable to crowd control effects while the Force of Will is on them. So that's how it kind of differentiates in an important way from Divine Shield. Not to mention the fact that, again, it's only 1.5 seconds, but that seems insane, right? Everyone's gut reaction, including the pros at the summit at Blizzard, was, hey, his W seems extremely strong. Now, there's at level 16, you are forced to talent in to Force of Will. All of your choices are Force of Will talent choices. So you can pick one that makes it also apply to allies near your target.
Very small area.
Yes, it's a tiny area. So I'm assuming this is going to be for melee heavy comps, maybe double tank compositions, and maybe you also went Nillidan and you're terrifying me, Garrett, sitting in the draft. Then you can also talent into it to make it last half a second longer, bringing it up to a full 2 seconds of all damage absorbed. Or you can talent into it so that when it ends, it heals the target for 50% of all of the damage that was absorbed. So all of the damage done to your Force of Will target over 1.5 seconds will be, 50% of that will be applied as a heal to the target of your Force of Will.
And important to note, the target doesn't become untargetable. So you can absolutely continue wailing on this guy. I think this is why we got the hold fire button put in the game when we did on Tracer's release.
I think you're right. That's all I have to say. This is definitely going to be, I think Force of Will, I think obviously it's going to kind of hang on whether Medivh is a popular pick or not once he is released. But if he is, I think we are all going to be hitting tab and checking talents a lot more often.
It's at 16, so it's late for sure.
Right. This is going to seem a bit like ye olden Kael'thas days, where it's like, okay, 16 came, Kael'thas is a god, everyone play completely different from how you were the last 15 levels. But I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it makes the game more interesting, right? It makes you have to adapt later on in the game.
And drafting will be interesting. Does this mean Medivh can go supportless and we just hold out for 16 and, negate as much damage as we can? And we get like Thrall and we get maybe even some weird vampiric talents that we never ever take because we just need the top off. We don't need anything else.
I don't know about that one, Kyle. That seems I'm very skeptical of the supportless Medivh, because as you know, I like myself some Brightwing, and boy does it feel rough until level 10. I can't imagine being like, just get to 16, guys, then I've got you.
His auto attacks are 70 at level 2. I don't know why that's the stat we have, but that's all there is. That's really stupid low. That's on level of like our Kael'thas's and our burst damage, where they just said, whoa, 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 we don't want those guys being able to auto attack. Our Chromies do about that much auto attack. Arcane Rift won't do a lot of damage. It's spammable every 7 seconds, and you can augment that to reduce the cooldown and whatnot. But he's going to be extremely low damage. So if you take Medivh, there's a ton to make up for. And then on top of that, you have Portal, which is like a short-range Medivh. And when did Medivh last work out for you in Quick Match?
It didn't, but it also was not a base talent. And so the important thing to keep in mind with Portal is that every time you see a Medivh, you will be seeing Portal. So over the course of the history of the game, people will be more used to seeing Portal and be trained on how to use it.
Right.
But again, kind of depends on how much we see Medivh, and I just don't know, man. He's too much of a wild card. I feel like it's hard for me to judge. I honestly can't tell you whether I think he's going to be extremely popular or almost not played.
I think he'll be extremely popular. Sure, the character, the flavor of him is really cool. Granted, there's those people that are a little more purist, and Medivh is supposed to be the most powerful, maybe damaging wizard in the world. And instead, he's been reduced to this utility specialist. But the Portal is, the reason I bring it up there is it's his E. We are missing out on a Flame Strike, a stun, something that would have brought him more compability. Instead, we have Portal, which is an extremely awesome ability.
Yeah, it seems really cool. I also love that it looks like a miniature Dark Portal.
Yep.
Which just makes me happy.
And you're not a big lore nut with the dark portals and whatnot, so maybe I shouldn't go into this, but why is the dark portal always changing the way it looks? Because the one in Black Morass in the Caverns of Time is all tiny.
Yep.
But that portal turned into the one that was in the Blasted Lands, right?
Correct.
And then it got all big with, like, dudes on it and a snake. And why a snake? And then the one in the Outland is huge, but then they built the one in the past future, and it's bigger.
No, it's the same size as the one that's in Outland.
Oh, okay.
That's correct. I don't know why the one in Black Morass looks different from the one in the Blasted Lands, because it is the same one. Oh, it had been destroyed and then rebuilt.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, chat room.
Awesome. And they made it bigger and put a snake on it.
Yeah, so you know.
Because snakes Outland, you know how it goes, right?
So more orcs can pile through at the same time. Of course, though, then that makes me beg the question, well, if like the opening in Outland is so much bigger than the one in Azeroth, if you had everyone go shoulder to shoulder in, what happens on the other side?
Right, do you get like
do you just lose 40% of your army?
Right. Do they like combine together into one mass? Does Manoroth shrink if he went through it?
And that's where ogres come from. I know that's not the case. Calm down.
Just roll with it, man. I like that explanation.
Just think it's funny. Anyways. That's
why they love Bloodlust, because they're so angry.
I have to share a butt now. Anyways. So you wanted to talk about the level 7 talent Raven Familiar, which augments your portal so that a Raven Familiar circles the allies that step through a linked portal for the first time. That Raven will dive at the ally's next basic attack target for 114 damage as spell damage. That's really cool, but that's also a really low amount of damage. That's not a ton of damage, man.
No, it's not, but it is flavorful. It's really cool. The other augments for portal are things like allows you to use your trait instead, because your Raven form is your mount. So you have an open trait button, it becomes lay the front portal, and your E is lay the far portal. And that's one way to augment this thing. You can also increase the duration, and it is actually pretty short, only 6 seconds, but you can travel back and forth. You can jump in, pop out the other side, go whoops, and jump back. If that's the case.
I actually like the idea of all 5 teammates jumping through with Raven Familiar and targeting someone, so you get 5 Ravens like stacking on top of whatever burst you're trying to accomplish.
It might have a place. I mean, there's still those rare times where you find yourself on a low damage team and you go Sins Exposed on Johanna. This is that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, let's talk about his Raven form a bit. So he doesn't have a mount. He turns into a Raven. He can fly literally anywhere over obstacles and whatnot. He's completely immune during that. He has 15% increased movement speed, so he's going to be moving a lot slower than your average mounted up hero.
Yeah.
So
Sounds dangerous.
yeah, absolutely. So the important thing to note is that the default vision radius is reduced. You don't have the typical sight circle around you.
No, it seems to be about minus 25%, and then you can augment that to be larger with a talent. Then it also gives you a passive as well as an active button to increase that by 100%.
Yeah. It's also important to note that you can't interact with objectives when you are a Raven. You're not allowed to pick up seeds. You can't pick up gems. You can't try and capture the Dragon Knight. However, you can still soak XP.
Guys, I won't make the objective. I'm soaking as a bird. Doing nothing.
Yeah. It's weird, right? Because obviously that's not what you're intended to do with a Raven. You're not intended to just sit there standing still going, haha, you can't kill me and I'm still getting XP. I don't think that's going to be enough to tip the scales in your favor to win the game.
And a lot of this has some cool potential for actually good, like, aggressive play. Like, someone does a cool barrel roll over a tree line, you turn into a bird, jump over that tree line, hit him with a skill shot.
Yeah.
Or you could have just skill shot through the bush. But whatever, you want to be cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, want to talk about his heroics?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about Polybomb, which I was really excited about until I read into it further. So, again, I'm sorry to reiterate a bit over episode 105, but I didn't get a chance to talk about some of these things. So you polymorph a target hero very similar to the way that Brightwing does on W, but in this case, it's a heroic. So you silence them; they can't attack. This lasts for 2 seconds. When it expires, the target explodes, spreading Polybomb. It doesn't do the explosion does not do damage, correct?
No.
Okay, it just chains Polybomb in a small radius around the hero, and technically this spread could happen indefinitely. If the first target spreads it to a second target, the second target could spread it back to the first target if they stood next to each other forever. Thing is, though, like I said, once I figured this out, once I saw the radius, I was like, that's going to be really easy to counter. You just move away. And we've already been cultured as players of Heroes of the Storm to spread thanks to Kael'thas being in the game for so long at this point.
Right, and right now we don't really have any true abilities that take advantage of making people spread. Nothing like, put 2 chains on someone, and if they break the chains, they take bonus damage, or take damage based on how far you move in the next 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. So could be some interesting interactions to make people run away from each other in the future. And of course, pros will take advantage of the split-second decisions where someone might move in a bad direction and end up getting exposed. One thing interesting about this is it is a full-on polymorph, and it does affect those relentless talents that affect polymorph, which isn't all of them. I believe Arthas has one of the rare versions of relentless that allows him to negate polymorph, and that'll be his new Icebound Resolve or something like that. I'm getting it here. Gotcha. Icebound Fortitude.
Icebound Fortitude. Okay.
So a 75% reduction means that Polybomb actually spreads to the near guy that much faster.
Yeah.
It could be a detriment to the team.
It could be. Also, there is a level 20 talent to improve Polybomb to where it makes it explode 1 second sooner, and it also increases the spread radius by just shy of 30%.
And that ain't bad. Only spreads too, so you still get the full 2 seconds on it.
Yeah. Although I'm curious. Icebound Fortitude, does that also work with the 1 second sooner explosion? Does it even sooner on an Arthas with Icebound Fortitude?
Oh, that's an interesting idea, right? Would you pop out sooner, and would that cause the bomb to go off sooner? Interesting interaction. We'd have to see.
I want some hero science, Kyle.
Yep.
Anyways, I just don't know. How do you feel about Polybomb?
I think it's going to be very powerful in quick match. And here we are saying things like this guy doesn't look like he's maybe a quick match hero. It'll cause chaos, though. And future abilities could really link up with this. And his alternative pick, I think you go with Polybomb. But then again, I've also been in that Web Blast, been in that stasis, while everyone kind of crowds around and waits for you to pop out.
Yeah, that's the Leyline Seal. And it's a rather wide, forward, long-range skill shot, and anyone caught in it is thrown in the stasis for 3 seconds.
Now, that's 3 seconds from when you're hit, and it's a very long line. So you could hit a whole team, and there could be Jaina off in the distance, and she gets hit by the last wave of it. Frontline Arthas pops out early.
Exactly.
So does the guy behind him, so does the guy behind him, and then Jaina last. So it's not maybe as powerful for the Wombo as something like a Void Prison. Probably a very conscious choice.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're going to if you're gonna have to reposition, meaning if you're going to have to say this lands like it probably will in most games with the tank closest to you, and the people you actually want to attack further back, you're eating up your precious 3 seconds moving around the frozen tank, who will unstasis the soonest to get to your target.
And then you use your portal to get to the back line and get to that 3 second guy. But yes,
that is
there
true.
are some problems. This isn't going to be an easy to use team ability.
No, that's the thing. The more I look at Medivh, the more it's looking like I'm very surprised to hear you say that there's talk going around that's saying he's going to be a quick match hero, because to me, I look at him and I look at his abilities and the way I think they're meant to synergize together, and I'm thinking this is going to be coordination central. You're going to need to be on voice chat. You're going to need to be coordinating as best as you can.
I agree.
So
we might have another Morales on our hands.
Yeah. I think Morales works fine in quick match.
Okay. For those patient enough, perhaps. That's not me.
No, nor I, sir. Nor I. That's why I don't like playing Morales. Even with coordination. I'm just like, I'd rather be anyone else.
Anyone need some goo thrown their way?
Yeah,
I'll be here.
I want to be turning people in the I want to be turning people in the sheep or hitting them with roots or something. Yeah. So, let's talk about some of the general talents that you wanted to bring up. Dust of Appearance, which is an active talent that you can get at level 4 on a 45-second cooldown. Now, you can activate this to reveal enemies in the immediate area around Medivh for 10 seconds, and it does not cancel Transform Raven.
Nice. Anti-stealth.
Yeah, I like that. And I'd like that you can bring it in as the Raven. Just come in and be like, boo, like you're you're a vulture from from StarCraft. You're just coming in and granting detection.
Raven.
Oh my god, I did it. I haven't changed.
Going back years.
Going back. Oh god, you guys.
That's for you StarCast listeners.
Everyone here who hasn't been listening to us in StarCast like episode 10, you're not getting. I used to mess up Vulture and Raven all the time. The Raven. Yep.
So,
wonderful.
And Medivh, being invincible, entirely untouchable as a bird, could easily follow around one of these stealthy characters. And, hey, that's a pretty good counter.
So sorry, I'm going to bring it back. You're literally like a Raven. You are a Raven, and you're giving detection like a Raven in StarCraft.
You're right.
That's amazing.
But they called it Dust of Appearance for some wizardy flavor. But yeah, I'm a little sad, Team 1, you got a little reference in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they'll rename it.
Maybe they will. Arcane Brilliance is a level 20 active ability. And it's on a 60-second cooldown, so a full minute. You can activate it to instantly restore 200 mana to all nearby allied heroes and provide them 10% bonus ability power for 10 seconds. That is a long time.
Yes, 10% isn't a lot, but this is about the size of Malfurion's Tranquility. So there's a good chance you'll get at least 2 people, the 2 main people you want to give this ability power damage to. Yeah. And that level 20 ability power at 10% is nothing to scoff at.
Yep. And then the final one we wanted to bring up today was Invisibility, which is another active level 20 talent. Only costs 10 mana, has a 10-second cooldown, and it gives an ally hero stealth for 20 seconds. Stealth is lost from damage or actions. Ooh. That can be dirty.
Yeah.
But would you rather just use Shadowstalk?
Probably. I mean, if we're going that solo support Medivh kind of business, yes, Shadowstalk is definitely better, but this is on a 10-second cooldown. Last 20 seconds, so there's a chance you can get a couple of people on board.
Yeah.
Set up a nice little
absolutely
game.
right. And you can just kind of keep this rolling throughout the rest of the game past level 20, of course. So it's not like you're going to have to be worrying about this. But, man, I want to see some strategies pop up around this.
Yeah.
Because that's not that again. That's kind of it changes the game. The whole game has gone a certain way, and now bam, level 20. Okay, guys, we have to deal with a stealthed Greymane. That seems terrifying.
Right, and then you start to burn him down. He becomes invincible, gets a portal next to him, and he gets out.
Oh my god! All right, I'm a lot more excited for Medivh now. Just after that little little hypothetical situation.
He is king of communication.
Absolutely. There's, oh man, I'm anxious to see him in the hands of pros.
Yeah,
In the hands of a team. I want to see this show up in tournaments. I'm
and
excited
the
for
pros are
Medivh.
already scared, so I think we'll see him.
I think so too. I hope so. I hope it's good. Hope it's good, Kyle. So, if you would like to see all of his talents, head on over to the Heroes subreddit, or we have a link in the show notes. The post came up quite a while ago, but it was a lovely rundown. Trying to get the guy's name. It's loading slowly by Uranon. So, thank you, Uranon, for typing this all up. Let's talk about what's next on the rundown, which is apparently the length of games on Garden of Terror is under investigation. This came about via a Reddit post this past week from Pyro Penguin 1, who talked about a near 40-minute Garden of Terror. And Trixler actually got in there and replied saying that long games on Garden of Terror is something we're aware of. There's an issue in which the Garden Terror is dealing a little less than the intended amount of damage against structures, and we have a planned fix for an upcoming patch. We're also internally exploring some other slight changes to shorten games. Those adjustments may come at a later date if needed. I would like to suggest, hey, maybe it's time to retire Garden of Terror.
I feel you. You do anything to that Garden Terror to make it better, and that just sounds bad. I don't want to chase it anymore. It's really what it comes down to.
I'm really done with this particular Battleground to
Yeah.
a degree where I am cranky. I have officially just ticked over into straight up crank territory on the subject of Garden of Terror. I don't find it fun. I audibly sigh when I see it come up on my loading screen.
It's an interesting problem for a MOBA to have, and every MOBA has always gotten longer the more heroes and opportunities and maps and changes are put into it, because you're giving people chances to make a comeback.
Yep.
I mean, think about, we used to have trickle XP in this game. How insane is that? The losing team would slowly get the level back to them because they were behind in order to make the games even. And they took that away because it kept the games going too long yet again.
Yeah.
But who wants to play a game when they're 4 levels ahead and they just steamroll you? It's a tough balancing act. I think Garden of Terror, though, doesn't suffer from the snowball problems of some of our other maps. I think the biggest snowball map right now is Blackheart's Bay. You win the fight, even when both teams are just looking for that first turn, and you win that fight, that's XP to your team off of the buildings. You snowball to victory.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. For me, it's run its course.
I agree.
I'm ready for some new Battlegrounds. Let's put Garden of Terror to bed.
And they're working on it. They have said as much, that new Battlegrounds are coming.
Yep. Do you remember how excited we were for Garden of Terror?
Well, I also had some illusions that it was going to be a little more PvE than it is.
Yeah.
I think Battlefield of Eternity encapsulates what I want the objective to bring to the game. And that static, emotionless beast is not as frustrating to lose against when you know there's someone on the inside controlling it. Maybe that changes the game. Maybe it's just the powers. Polymorphing is frustrating. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, getting stunned by Immortal still stings.
Yeah, it does. I definitely prefer. I think didn't this come up off stream when we were talking to McIntyre during Brawl with the Blues? He was saying just just have the AI control these things. It's more fun when you're, as a team, controlling the hero that you intended to play.
Yeah, and I agreed with him too, because particularly in like new player weeks, like, you know, Tracer. I remember Tracer week, I rode the Dragon Knight a lot because I could get there quick enough. But I just wanted to play my Tracer.
Yep. And it's not all that often that I draw parallels between this and World of Warcraft, but this was absolutely what was happening during Lich King raids. I was sick and tired of raiding in vehicles. I wanted to play my paladin. I wanted to pew-pew as my hunter. I didn't want to be a catapult.
I don't want to be a catapult, Ma.
Yeah. It's cool the first
I agree
time,
with you.
but-
No, same with Wintergrass. I mean, that was a little more isolated.
Oh,
a
I
little more
completely
fun.
disagree with you there. I completely disagree. I thought Wintergrass was amazing.
No, Wintergrass was fun, but, you know, in long time, I did want to play as my character more.
Well, that's what I liked about Wintergrass. It was so big, you didn't really have to control the vehicles. There was always somebody trying to beat you to the vehicle, and it's like, cool, I wanted to play my hunter anyway.
True.
All yours. Loves to kill gnomes.
Unless this is like Battlefield, but the last Battlefield I really played a lot was 1942. So I can't speak to the new ones and their vehicles, but those ones are fun.
I can't speak to them at all. I love myself some Battlefront, though, and those vehicles are fun, too.
Same dudes, right?
Yes, now it is. The most recent Battlefront, yes. Not the originals on the 360, but... anyways, moving on. We got a hot fix this week. Rhaegar had a fix. Casting Rewind will no longer reset the cooldown of Ghost Wolf. So, you may rest easy, Rhaegar haters.
Cool.
Yep. They also fixed an issue that could prevent the client from fully shutting down after exiting the game. Glad that was fixed. And they fixed an issue causing the tooltip for Kerrigan's Fury of the Swarm ability to display an incorrect value. Joy.
Lots of people noticing that this is a 300 megabyte patch, so pretty sure Medivh got in the game here as well.
I think so. I think that's a safe assumption.
Lots of bugs still floating around, though. This is by no means a full-on fix. And even this little touch on Rhaegar brought up a lot of conversations across the community, particularly involving supports. And we've talked about that before, the lack of supports, the lack of options. But also pro players, you know, weighing in, saying, you know, maybe even nerf Rhaegar's healing. I want to play someone else. You're driving me insane.
Really?
They've been playing two here, you know, some of them. Lieutenant Morales, Rhaegar. Like 75% of their games over the last 6 months have just been those two guys. And they're burning out.
Play Brightwing.
Brightwing's great.
That's all I say. Play Brightwing. Play Uther. I think they're fine. So, but we'll see. Now it's time for Dustin Browder tweets.
Right. I could be wrong.
According to Mr. Browder, a little health might be coming to Chromie. The design team is talking about it.
And it looks like this is going to be the approach they take. He brought it up over a couple of tweets. So a little bit of health. Good, I guess. Cool.
Yep.
She flies. I love that she weighs less, because when you smack her, she goes.
Yeah, absolutely. When Dustin was asked if there were any Overwatch heroes that the Heroes team would be hyped about making currently, Dustin Browder said, "I can't stop playing Junkrat, but we are not working on him right now." Frowny face.
No Junkrat coming soon.
Yeah. Oh, man, I've really fallen in love with Junkrat since the game went live. This is a hero I did not play a lot during the beta, but really, really speaking to me now as my inner pyromaniac and just generally insane behavior is coming out of me, Kyle.
Congratulations. That's... Yeah, Junkrat, man, you're just guarding the point, and a bunch of bombs show up from nowhere and over some hill.
Is that really the thing that makes you mad? Really? More than Hanzo? More than the hero that somehow perfectly puts an arrow in your brain?
Hanzo's my best guy.
Well, the truth shall set you free, Kyle.
I know. And this week too, man, it's been interesting because we did the beta, and so I have a lot of understanding. I have a lot of game knowledge of how to make a comp. So originally, when I get in, used to playing with all these beta people, you know, big old fancy star wings and gold blinging on their nameplates. I get in and everyone's rank 1 or whatever, and I go straight to Reinhardt. Bad time. Go to Mercy, my other main guy. Bad time. Not a good time to be supporting in a game that's brand new.
No, it is
made
not.
And I always thought Hanzo was an ass, but now I've seen the movie and I know he's an ass, and he's still awesome, and I keep playing him. And I got my first play of the game ever in the live game last night on Genji, and my first time ever playing Genji. So I don't feel too good about myself. I'm great with Bastion too. Like I just feel like a right butt.
Well, I'm with you there, man. I love me some Bastion as well. I ain't afraid to say it. I love him. And he's not that bad. He used to have a forward-facing shield. You don't know our pain.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, final Dustin Bratter tweet. Are you ready, Kyle, for the award for the most obvious statement in the history of game design?
Okay.
The team feels they may have revealed Arena too early.
Perhaps, maybe. I don't know.
I'd say so.
Yeah,
I'd say
it's going to
so.
be a lot bigger than it was at BlizzCon.
Is it?
And I feel like we're talking in legend these days because very few people got to actually play it, and yet it's heavily requested upon.
That's the funny thing, man, because they announced it at BlizzCon, and it was the thing I was the least excited about. And now that time is going on and on and on, I feel I feel like time between announcement and release, the longer that is, the bigger the expectation curve goes up. And I'm already, this doesn't seem like my kind of jam. Tavern Brawl and Hearthstone is really low on my radar. So is Brawl and Overwatch. So I don't think Arena here is necessarily going to really tickle my fancy either. And it just seems all the more absurd to me that it's taking so long to come.
Yeah, this week's Brawl was just entirely uninteresting to me in Hearthstone.
I actually had a good time with it, but just overall, it's kind of the thing I'm probably overall least interested in that game. I would like to
I love the Mechazord one.
Mechazord?
Yeah, whoever it is. I love him.
Yeah, the
all day
co-op
long.
one.
I'll play that one.
I'd love to see more co-op brawls. That'd be really cool.
And if we get like a destroy the Ultralisk thing in Arena, that's awesome. I haven't actually touched the Overwatch ones. Sorry, I know we said we'd avoid, but have you played? Is it just like it's all Junkrats or something wacky like that?
There are brawls like that.
Do they go any further?
There's all
like
sorts
kind
of
of Hearthstone does.
No, not really. It just they kind of mess with the rules and the compositions and whatnot. Some of them are as simple as these are the only three heroes you can play as. So, and some are as wacky as you can only play Pharah and Mercy. So nobody is ever killing anyone. Because if you tried to hit a Pharah as Pharah while you're both in the air,
it's a feat.
Yeah,
I've seen it done.
Yeah,
usually by accident.
I referred to it yesterday on I don't even remember what podcast anymore because we do too many of them. I referred to it as the lamest Gundam fight that ever took place.
There's lamer ones probably, but close.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lot didn't happen in that show.
That's very true. Anyways, before we move into our strategy talk, let's thank our patrons who are supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. If you are enjoying our show, you like ITN, you like Kyle, you like me. Do you like Kyle? Can you tolerate me? And you want to support us? Cool. Go to patreon.com/ITN. That is where you can go and you can opt in to subscribe for however much you would like per episode and support the show directly. That's why we don't have ads at the top of the show. It's because patrons directly supporting the show. So this episode, thank you to Rickard W., Thomas M., Second Sight, Ovent Brell, I don't know, Joel B.
Oven Birtle? That's always been my
Oven
favorite.
Birtle is what Kyle has always called him. Joel B., Grovsky, Thomas H., and Brandon K. Thank you all so much for supporting Into the Nexus. It means the world to us. Thank you. Now, let's talk about XP.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent!
Talent? Ah, that seems generous.
Yeah, no clue what that means.
So, Kyle, this week you wanted to give a refresher on experience because we only have 3 more episodes until season 1 starts. So we're going to be doing these kind of bite-sized general strategies to kind of prep you for your placement matches.
And this is an interesting one because it's recently changed, and it's funny how slowly but quickly this game moves. I mean, thinking about in the past, right? You bought the disc, you went home for the next 3 years until it died. N64 cards, like that was the game you owned forever. And then online play started, but think about how slow things moved in that town. A hero was good. There was no esports to define you. That you just kind of saw them more and more and more until eventually you caught on by the community or just playing enough games. So XP, very recently, our understanding of it has changed due to static XP. But before we get into that, let's talk briefly about what is XP.
XP and you. Here is
Collecting
little
XP.
Timmy. Little Timmy would like to level up.
So he moves into lane. Getting XP happens without kills. You just happen to be in the zone. A minion dies. It's about half a screen away, a little less than that. But if you're about half a screen away, you can absorb the XP from minions just wailing on each other. XP comes from destroying towers, forts, and keeps. You do not need to be in range for those. Minions, you do. The wells, the gate, and the walls give no XP. So it feels nice to kill a well. It's a nice strategy move, too. But you're not giving any XP from your team for that.
Right.
XP also naturally comes from killing heroes. You do not need to be in range of this. Abathur mines go off. It kills the guy. Sure, Abathur gets the points. The little check mark on his box that says he participated, he assisted, or he got the killing blow. But that's all just fluff in this game. It's all shared XP. And XP is never multiplied by the heroes in range. So, if Murky and Uther both get a kill, and that kill is worth 800 XP, on the scorecard, it'll say Murky and Uther have 800 XP. They both got 800 XP and contributed that to the team. But that doesn't mean they gave 1,600 XP. Only 800 went into the total pool. And this is why Heroes is still being figured out after 2 long years. Certainly changes, mess with the game as well. But shared XP is such its own component of this game that we're still figuring it out to this day.
Right. You can't at the end of the game add up all of the XP across the XP columns on your team and have an accurate number of how much XP total was farmed that game.
No, not at all. I mean, we could go 5 people, 1 lane, all game, and ideally we could all have the exact same XP, but we never gained more than that set number.
Right. I mean, in that perfect scenario, you would actually just divide whatever the number is by 5 on one of those guys, and there you have it. But nonetheless, moving on.
So we know how to generally get XP. We want kills. We want to destroy towers. That feels good. And our old way of thinking was soak. And you're probably very familiar with this. People yelling soak at each other. Soak, soak, soak. Go soak. Let's all burn those lanes. We get into lanes, everyone in a separate lane. We're talking about the past year, last 4 months or so. Everyone get in their own lanes, make them pretty, burn those lanes down with your abilities, use your blizzards, use your cone of colds, use your expensive abilities, and push to that wall, get that wall down, give us the XP, make it to objective, sure, but, soaking's okay, right? If Murky wants to miss out, if Zagara says, no, I'm top for this, and Nazebo says that, our specialist, you'd be like, yeah, well, soaking's great. We do the objective, everyone immediately goes back to soaking.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think soaking is bad. You definitely shouldn't avoid getting XP from all the lanes. It's just you shouldn't necessarily go out of your way to siege.
That is correct, and that's what changed. It's our understanding of static XP. And static XP is basically non-hero kills related XP. It is lane minions, towers, forts, and keeps. All the things that will happen no matter what in the game. In particular, the buildings. Really change the way you think about XP, because those are banks of XP out on the map.
They're always going to give you the same amount. So we talked about this a little bit earlier off stream as we were going through this, and your whole concern is you don't want to get too many forts too quickly, because that's actually, if you've ever been in a game where it seemed like you were incredibly ahead, and all of a sudden the opposing team caught back up with you, it's because they had forts they hadn't destroyed late in the game.
Exactly. So in our older understanding of this, Murky skips the objective on Cursed Hollow. Murky decides to push the top lane. He gets the wall, she, whatever it is, Murky, gets the wall, gets the fort, and y'all are feeling good going into that objective, and throughout that objective fight, sure, you die once or twice on your team. Maybe you lose the objective, but you come out of it with a level lead, besides the 2 deaths. Cool, Murky did a great job. Not so much when we look at the grander picture, because now they have non-static XP. They've got those deaths, that XP from the kills on their team. And when they turn in an objective like Blackheart's Bay, those cannons are going to go destroy those static XPs. That Garden Terror, that Dragon Knight, it's going to make up the deficit that they had. And now you guys find yourselves behind despite this really dominant early game. And like Garrett said just a minute ago, sometimes you can have them pushed completely back to their keeps. The back versions of the forts, that is, with the walls up and everything. And their front line is decimated. And you have so much map control, but for some reason, they just come flying out of the box at you guys. And it's because they had more kills. So in the end, the game actually does work a lot like our previous versions of MOBAs. Shared XP just kind of makes up for maybe an early game loss there, but we're using our banked XP.
Right. Now, again, I want to get into my asterisks, Kyle, and you can shoot them down or tell me I'm not insane.
Okay.
Still not a terrible idea to have a specialist or someone who is good at pushing lanes and possibly sieging to go and siege, take out a couple of towers if the objective is to have level, say, 10 before your opponents, so that you can engage on said objective with your heroics, and they do not.
And one of the things you're really getting at here is how hard it is to be Murky, Asmodean, Zagara. Like, being a specialist is extremely difficult now. It used to be kind of clear-cut. You siege away. People were happy with you doing that business. But now, things have changed.
It's hard now, especially if you're playing in a vacuum. If you're solo queuing up as a specialist and you're not in an environment where you can talk and strategize with your teammates, at least not easily, because you are then, say you're the only specialist and everyone else is a damage dealer, a tank, or a healer, you're really the only person who's the only person on your team out of the 5 people who need to make this conscious decision. You need to make a judgment call. Do I go be a specialist? Do I grab mercs? Do I go push lanes? Do I go siege the walls? Or do I go join the fight? Do I go fight for the objective with my team? Because and the correct answer shifts depending on how the fight is going.
Absolutely. And sometimes it might not be buildings. You may not want to use your static XP yet. You don't want to cash in those checks. You might want to farm 2 lanes on Asmodean and get your stacks up by moving back and forth. You may want to, even as Murky, with all the power you can burn down a building with, you might want to switch lanes and float between 2 just to make sure those are covered. I mean, look at Lost Vikings. Lost Vikings is an awesome example of a specialist that soaks. And static XP, the trickle of it, the minions coming across the map, is entirely taken care of. The buildings are another issue. Lost Vikings, not very powerful to push apart, but the soaking is there. And that means that is entirely covered. So your team, with Lost Vikings on your team, is made for kills. And you need to float as 4 and get those kills. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind.
Yep, absolutely. Also, obviously, there's a big difference between forts and keeps. Keeps we're talking about, as you mentioned earlier, the forts that are closer to the core, those are your keeps. And if you kill those, you're going to get catapults. And there are times where, maybe it's not in the best interest to cash in that static XP, but it's probably in your best interest to get catapults out on the field.
And I don't think there's a situation where the game is going great, the 4 other players have the map totally taken care of, and you decide to burn down a keep. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
But you've made a judgment there. You have chosen, as Murky, to say, my players have a level lead, they're ahead, they're good to go, we have a great comp, that doesn't need me to be there.
Right.
So, how can this change your play, this information? Well, soak lanes until they are pushed out. That's one of the best things you can do. Don't be too aggressive in lane. Don't burn all your mana. Don't lose all your cooldowns and open yourself up to getting ganked. Just play safe, push it to the enemy wall, and when it gets there, realize that there's not really too much you can do to gain XP in that lane anymore, and you might choose to float. At that point, you'd probably be in a good spot to go join that objective.
Yeah, this is one of the things I feel it's one of the starkest, the most obvious differences between a pickup game, you're solo queuing, and watching the Pro Heroes tournament on the weekend. You're going to notice the pro teams rotating between lanes.
They're very busy.
Like, in perfect fashion. They're basically missing no XP. They're getting there just before the first creep is killed by the other creeps, and clearing it out and moving on to the next lane. That's what we call a rotation. And this is just not something you see in solo queue, mostly because it is significantly harder to coordinate that when you're not speaking to one another. Yes, you have pings, and yes, you could type, but you're using up APM to do that.
The simplest way to think of it is, like we talked about, pushing to their wall. Think about it on the opposite side. everything is basically okay. When you get to that enemy wall, towers are going to kill your minions. That'll start a pile up of their minions that will always win the fight as it pushes towards your wall back. They'll have more archers in the background as those front knights die. Eventually, as it pushes, that pile of minions will reach your wall, and that's danger time. That's when your buildings will use their ammo to kill the minions with no one around to soak the XP. That's your window of opportunity. I push the enemy wall. I've got maybe 45 seconds. I can roam another lane. Maybe I'll go get that orb that could happen in mid. Maybe I'll participate in this team fight. Excellent. I see the lane that I was manning is now pushed back out. Let's go get that XP.
Yep. I also like that you brought up just the mention of not using your cooldowns, not burning all of your mana to siege walls early in the game, because that was something that coming into Heroes I was so surprised about in terms of what is different between Heroes of the Storm and other more traditional MOBAs like Dota and League of Legends, and I still see it to this very day. People just blowing through their mana. Typically, you want to, in Dota, that's not something you see a lot.
No, there's no reason not to, because it takes so long to get across those giant maps.
Right.
If I get rid of Blizzard on Jaina, I just like that one because it's so visual. Everyone around me knows, hey, that Jaina just lost her main crowd control, her main zoning ability. Let's get her.
Yep. You can
that's a bad idea.
You can feel it coming when you unleash that Blizzard.
Yep.
So
those are the sort of abilities you want to be careful of. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll talk about a number of things, but we'll certainly talk about, not picking fights before objectives and all the other sort of caveats that work into a real-time strategy game. But, so let's wrap it up to reiterate. Soak those lanes until they're pushed out. Roam when you reach the enemy towers unless you have an agreed-upon reason or a really good observation that lets you stay. Participate in all team fights. Get your team non-static XP early. Return to soak when the objective is done, and then be ready to make the next objective.
sounds good. Let's round the show out with an email.
Darkness stopped calling.
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
Okay, tell them I'm not here.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. Our email today comes to us from Pretzul. There is no Dana, there is only Pretzul. Since there are now 4 mages in the game, we can guarantee that each team will have the opportunity to pick at least one mage during the first round of picks if they so choose. In what circumstances would you pick each mage and why? Similarly, when would you ban a specific mage to avoid playing against it?
This is a fascinating question.
Yes,
and
it
it's
is.
something that we were all thinking as Chromie was coming out before we got to play here. How awesome it is to basically guarantee everyone a burst. We have options now. But that didn't end up being the case.
No, not necessarily. Although it is interesting. I think there is a good reason to train at Jaina and to train at Chromie because they're probably not going to get banned right now.
Absolutely.
Li Ming and Kael'thas likely are. This is why Jaina is one of my mainstays. This is why she is favorited. This is why she is at the front of my hero's garage. Because I actually get to play her.
Yeah. She makes it through.
Yeah.
And she's not bad. She's got zone control. She's the bursty of bursts when you can combo things together well. All the slows, which might work well with executioners on your team. But she's got long cooldowns that aren't very forgiving outside of Frostbolt. And she has 0 escape. Even at level 20 now, all you can do is get yourself in an ice block.
Yeah. So, anything else as far as Jaina? Because honestly, I think you kind of just wrapped it up very nicely.
Yeah, that's when you would want to take her, is when you're seeing that opportunity for a burst on your team, and possibly you can encourage Executioner as well. But ultimately, she's very solid. She's been out for a long time, and I think she's great. Her win rate doesn't reflect that, though.
Yeah. So what about Li Ming? Obviously, I love Li Ming. Love her to death. Do not get to play her enough in Hero League because, well, she gets banned. But she's, I think, arguably the strongest of the mages, if for no other reason than she has the best, if not actually the only mage with any type of escape mechanic in her teleport.
Yeah, teleport changes a lot and opens her up to being in a lot more comps. Plus, you can get diamond skin. There's calamity builds. There's options in there. Certain maps, you might want to go a full Magic Missile build. I mean, Battlefield of Eternity, she's a top pick, and she's also a top ban for those very reasons. You also have all the snowball potential of Critical Mass. Now, to her negative sides, like we said, she's going to be very ban out. If it's not Kael'thas first, it's sometimes and usually Li Ming, if not Tracer or Illidan. And depending on your league, there you might see Morales or ETC. But still, if you're looking for people to practice to apply to Hero League, Li Ming may not be your target. She also scales a little oddly, and this is only on the orb, but it only scales at 3.5%. So actually in the late game, if you don't have a level lead, Li Ming will be a little less powerful than our other characters.
Yeah, very true. Very important to note. Whereas Kael'thas kind of has the opposite. The later in the game it gets, the stronger he seems to become.
And he stacks well. He's got great talents.
Oh, God, yes.
He really punishes heavy melee comps, which there is a good chance of that happening today. He's extremely frustrating to play against. So is Li Ming, but Kael'thas changes the battlefield. We all have to move differently. We have to pay attention to more. And I think that's why we see him ban outside of Li Ming. And right now he has a great win rate, whereas Li Ming is dipped below 50%. He's also very reliable. You have to aim stuff on Li Ming. Jaina. I click exactly who I want to put a living bomb on. And that makes things easy.
Yeah. Now what about Chromie? Because I don't necessarily disagree with the brute force of typing over and over that is currently happening in the chat room, saying that Chromie isn't a mage. Because I do file her pretty close into Nova. I mean, we're talking about Burst here, who happen to be mages, but I feel like if we're going to talk about Chromie, you might as well talk about Nova, because they're quite similar. They're bodied light, they're not going to be in lane, but they do still bring the Burst.
And it's important to note, too, that these tags are the Burst tag. I mean, they're assassins by Blizzard standards. But by Hotslogs, kind of a site we all sort of gravitate around for our understanding of the game, they are listed as burst damage, our mage kind of class. We also have ambushers, who are our Novas, Zeratools, Kerrigans, and Butchers. Without Stealth Butcher, Kerrigan still can leap out of a side lane and destroy you extremely quickly. I wouldn't mind seeing Greymane on there in his Worgen form, but as a Gilnean, he is sustained damage. Thrall, 2 levels ahead, he lands the roots. That's burst damage, feels like, but again, he's listed as sustained damage. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of different little caveats we can do in these labels, but Chromie, just by nature of her selection and her skills, which are to the tune of these mages, lots of low cooldown, heavy hitter abilities that require skill shots.
Yes, and in the case of Chromie, probably the hardest to hit.
Definitely. We thought, we were sitting around being all proud of ourselves with Li Ming, thinking how hard she was to play, but that orb gets bigger as it flies.
Yeah, she seems like a cakewalk now by comparison to Chromie.
And Nova, does seem kind of hard to play. We've just had her for a really long time. Mm-hmm. When we compare her to some of our other heroes where you point and click exactly what you want to do to the guy. So Chromie has her advantages, though. She's extremely long range. Her main cooldown, her Sand Blast, is extremely short. Very forgiving if you miss. And you have reliable delete potential if you play well.
Yes.
And correctly.
She pairs well with anyone that has a stun.
And you can reliably, with the temporal loop, get a kill off. And I know, and believe me, I'm not, as we talked about on last show, I'm not the kind of person who's going to tell you guys how to play, but there's a way to play Chromie right now. And hopefully that'll be fixed in the future.
I agree.
One of her main problems, though, unlike our other bursts, is that she's body light. Like, really body light. Li Ming, teleport. Jaina, you can slow. Maybe you'll get away. You still need support. Kael'thas, if you're getting in auto attacks and living bombs, you're putting yourself in the danger range. But something about those shoulder pads make him feel more beefy, even though his actual health numbers aren't that much higher than Chromie's.
He's not, but thanks to Gravity Lapse, you're not completely left without options if things start to go awry.
You can also participate in objectives on any other burst. And Chromie, you have to blow your main Dragon Breath, one of your main utilities for killing somebody. And now you're out of commission for 14 seconds?
Yep.
That's a long time to not give anything to an objective. Your Time Trap, your Sand Blast do nothing. for an objective.
So when getting back to Pretzel's questions, when would you ban them out?
So if I was making full-on selections as to who I would ban, let's talk about maps because comps are just nebulous and will go on forever.
Okay.
Let's ban Li Ming on Battlefield of Eternity.
All right.
Let's get rid of her.
Smart. I
Magic
agree.
Missile build is incredible on a stationary target.
Yes. You would just tear through them.
Kale thoughts? Let's ban him out if we're planning to go a heavy melee comp because we're going to spread around those living bombs too easily.
Yep. I also like talking about maps. I like banning him out on Infernal Shrines.
Yeah.
Same thing with, actually, I would consider banning a Jaina on Infernal Shrines. I
Sure.
feel like everyone in the sound of my voice thinks I'm crazy, but I would ban out a Jaina on Infernal Shrines.
I don't think so. If we're thinking like true optimization, we want sustain attackers on Infernal Shrines. Spells are expensive, you'll run out of mana, and those little skeletons with your tiny health pool will eat away at you, whereas, a Nazebo will just keep on burning. A Rainer. Not as fast and not as bursty, of course, but leave them in there for the same amount of time. I think the Rainer finishes up before the Jaina. Kael'thas has Phoenix, which lasts a while, so I think he's still a great pick there.
Yeah, I think so as well. Would you ever ban Chromie right now?
I think an easier question is, what comp would I take Chromie in with? Because that's a positive.
Okay.
But because Chromie, like banning her, I don't know what I see on the enemy team that makes me go, here comes the last pick Chromie, right? And that's kind of where I want to see her. I don't want to see those first pick Novas. I want to see them complete a team, aid a team in its ideas. And my immediate thought is Chromie is extreme artillery from the back. And you have to have, just like artillery and, with the guns and boom into the air and the big ol' arcs and math and whatnot.
In actual war?
Yeah, you need a front line of tanks and trenches and whatnot to keep those high-value, expensive pieces of machinery going.
Yep.
So, maybe something, we can go a little weird, right? Because we're adding bodies, but we're limiting our kill potential. So maybe we can get a little interesting with something like Dahaka and Sonya together to make our front line. That's very loud and very chaotic, so that the Chromie never gets the attention put on her.
I mean, I think just overall, for me, I don't want to take Chromie into any composition that doesn't have a double tank, or at least a tank and a beefy frontliner like a Thrall or a Zool.
And you need that. I think, like, double full-on, like, for some reason you went ETC and Johanna. Like, that's a lot of noise. That's a huge front line for Chromie, but you have to have that cleanup. It's not always very controllable to get that kill. You need someone that can dive, that Thrall with his poke. Poke, I guess, is what we're looking for on the team.
Yeah.
To finish it up. That's why Vala, despite being moldy from, an oldie, and with the game's release, continues to be cited as one of the very top heroes.
Yeah, man. But if I'm being honest, though, if you ask me, when do I want to take Chromie, the answer for me right at the moment is, I honestly would rather not.
I'd rather not, too. So. And I'd rather not have a Nova. It's a high-risk scenario.
It is a high-risk scenario, so that's the thing. Like, because I know we led into this with, like, when do you ban Chromie, Kyle? And the answer is, I don't think I ever would. Because if the other team wants to take Chromie, I'm sitting there going, all right, impress me. Because I don't think it's the opposite of the reason you see Li Ming and Kael'thas banned out so much. We are assuming that the majority of players out there know how to play these heroes and can bring the hurt, and that either Li Ming or Kael'thas, they will upset the game kind of regardless of the way that the opposing comp goes in a pickup solo queue game.
It's the mosh pit problem.
Yeah.
It's the fact that things could be going great and we all stand in the wrong place. Critical mass goes off and we all die. We all pass around the living bomb. We all die. And Jaina and Chromie don't really have that wombo crazy potential, despite being extremely high damage. The last thing we want to see, I think, is a buff to Chromie's damage to make her better.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think, honestly, Jaina is in a good place. I really like Jaina. And I think with Ring of Frost, you can have a mosh pit type scenario. It's just that you can't always make it happen by yourself as Jaina. You need just a little bit of teamwork. But with just a little bit of teamwork, Jaina is exceptionally lethal.
I think Chromie might have a place with Medivh. And that'd be interesting.
Oh, that'd be so weird. Because Medivh seems body light as well.
He is body light. That's true.
You have a double body light comp, Kyle.
That's
it's madness.
True, but we skip the healer there, in theory. Because that's one of the biggest problems with Chromie right now is we lose body and damage on our healer. And so Morales is out in that case. We can't bring her. I want to see Chromie rolling with Abathur, Zeratul, Nova, Cho'Gall. Like, the number of options, the number of ways to ruin a comp with Chromie is staggering at times.
Yeah, okay. All right. I don't know.
And I ain't hating. No way. I think Chromie is really sick. And there are people doing it right every day. But Quick Match is a scary place right now.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, time will tell. I'm skeptical of your last suggestion, Kyle.
Oh, the theory that Medivh might bring... No, I think we would be much better suited with all of our sustained characters in a truly supportless comp. Let's get Thrall who heals himself. Let's get Illidan who heals himself. Let's get groupies let's get groupies etc. Why not? And Sonya, that's chaos. That's a lot of melee. That doesn't maybe sound too good, but at least they top themselves off every 5 seconds of protection shield.
Yep.
On Medivh.
Yep. One last little tip I want to give on the subject of when to pick on what map. If I can't get Zagara, I love taking Jaina on Tomb of the Spider Queen because there are a lot of narrow little areas where a blizzard is always going to land.
Yeah. And we didn't even talk about Falstad, who, dependent on his spec, ends up in the burst category right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But he still has super solid auto attacks, and they went through and made these mages have very small auto attacks.
Absolutely. And we did talk quite a bit about Mage Falstad last week.
That's true.
So if you want to hear more on that as I fight through a weird yawn that came out of nowhere, go check that out.
Breathe with the diaphragm.
Breathe with it. Breathe with it. Exhale with it. I got nothing.
Lean with it, rock with it? Is that what you were
That's
going
what I was trying to go. Thank you.
Right.
At least it wasn't lost on. At least my failure was not lost on you. So, anyways, thanks for email there, Pretzul. And again, folks, if you want to send us an email, you can do so at itncast@gmail.com. That's going to do it for this week's show. Patrons, chat rumors, stick around. We are going to be diving into Overwatch this week because you voted, and that's what we're going to play. Because, come on, it's Overwatch week. Everyone wants to get in. Everyone wants to play a little Overwatch. So stick around for that. Thanks again to our patrons. You can support us by heading on over to patreon.com/ITN. If you were listening to us on iTunes, drop us an iTunes review. Thank you this week to Lord of Cinder and _Brockness. I like to think he's just like Brock from Pokemon, but I don't know the ness of said Brock. I'm not sure. Anyways, Into the Nexus is produced by amove.tv and our Patreon producers Declan H and Cheesy Bob. Thank you guys so much. You can get our swag, coffee mugs, pint glasses, stuff like that over at bit.ly/amove store. We will be back next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/amovetv. Catch our mobile live stream on alphageekradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at ITNcast. And thanks to BrianGriffithMusic.com for our intro and outro music. Kyle, where can folks find you and your continuing to educate people on how to be total badasses in the game of Heroes of the Storm?
Well, you can find that at youtube.com/Kyle Ferguson, or my Twitch streams that I do on Tuesdays, the Learn to Play show, and then Wednesdays, the Hero League show, solo queue, over at twitch.tv/Kyle Ferguson, 2 S's in Ferguson, and follow me on Twitter for all the updates on that sort of business.
Awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at Garrett Art. I obviously want to pimp Overwatchers, my Overwatch podcast that I'm doing with Mr. Patrick Beja from France, living in Finland, currently visiting Japan, because why not? And Mr. Chanman V. Check out Overwatchers anywhere where podcasts can be found, iTunes, Google Play, etc., or on amove.tv. Also check out my solo show, The Angry Nerd. Hoping to put out another one tomorrow, as a matter of fact. That's all I'll pimp this week. You can find everything at AMove TV. That's where you should go. Do that. And don't forget about CreateCon, by the way. Go to createconvention.net if you would like to come out to Orlando, Florida this July and come see a live taping of Into the Nexus with me and Kyle in the same room. I'll be able to poke him and tickle him, and it'll get weird.
Ooh.
For everyone involved, except the two of us, because that's just kind of, normal horseplay.
Happens,
It does. You always want to tickle the DM, especially when you roll a 1.
Yes.
Which happens with me in my sessions with Kyle Ferguson all the time. I believe I needed to find I required a magic chest full of magic potions to survive a fight with a dragon in a drained lake the last time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because I got effed up.
Yeah.
Rolled a lot of
Kinda landed
ones
on
against
top
that
of you.
dragon. Yeah. I had a full grown, what was it, a black dragon?
Yeah.
I had a
Black
full
Dragon.
grown black dragon land on top
the
of
mud.
me. Yep. Go me.
That was a good fight.
Oh, no, it wasn't. Anyways, that's going to do it. Just because we don't run ads anymore, by the way, folks, does not mean we still do not have awesome codes to give you. You can use the code ITN over at doghousesystems.com to get a free solid-state drive added on to your amazing Doghouse Systems gaming PC. That is what I use. I love it. I'm talking to you through one right now. I'm streaming on it all the time. And it's got to be pushing 3 years old now, and it's wonderful. I did upgrade the video card once, but hey.
That's called owning a computer and not a console.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, and you do get that solid state drive on top of the regular drive that already comes with the system. So go check them out. Use the code ITN and get a killer rig while also supporting the show. You can also use ITN over at tweakedaudio.com to get 30% off and free shipping off of your entire order from them. They have noise reducing earbuds. I still use them like crazy every time I go on an airplane ride. They're wonderful. They're rides, by the way. I go on an airplane just for fun. They're just rides.
Wow.
It's not for a purpose or to get to a destination for any particular reason. It's just for fun.
Ooh, I can't join you on that one, man.
So I hope somebody right now is picturing me, a full-grown, quite tall man, sitting in one of those 25-cent like ride machines outside of a mall. That's like a little airplane with my earbuds in, going, yeah, just rocking out to the music.
Love the Ernie fire truck.
Ah, yeah. Our local outlet mall, the one that's all outside, the one that I hate going to because there's always too many people, too many stores, and it's Florida hot. They have like an old school 90s Ninja Turtles van.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Outlet malls, man, they don't happen anywhere like in Florida.
No.
There's something magical. Disney just built their own, too, to have an outlet mall inside the property. So you don't even have to leave if you want an outlet experience. Goody.
I can go without that. Although, wait, I will admit, I like downtown Disney.
Yeah.
I enjoy downtown Disney quite a bit. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode of Into the Nexus. Tune in next week for episode 109. Until then, good luck and have fun.
Take care.